Hello, welcome to Sound and Fury Book Reviews. As usual, I am Tina. Today I'm doing a book review of The Other Valley by Scott Alexander Howard. This is a kind of literary sci-fi from a trio of books. It comes out February 27th, 2024. I received this book from NetGalley in exchange for a fair review. An absorbing, philosophical, absolutely unputdownable time travel sci-fi, The Other Valley hits like a train. What is it about? 16-year-old Odile is an awkward, quiet girl vying for a coveted seat on the council. If she earns a position, she'll decide who may cross her town's heavily guarded borders. On the other side, it's the same valley, the same town, except to the east. The town is 20 years ahead in time. To the west, it's 20 years behind. The towns repeat in an endless sequence across the wilderness. When Odile recognizes two visitors she wasn't supposed to see, she realizes that the parents of her friend Edme have been escorted across the border from the future on a morning tour to view their son while he's still alive in Odile's present. Edme, who's brilliant, funny, and the only person to truly see Odile, is about to die. Sworn to secrecy in order to preserve the timeline, Odile now becomes the council's top candidate, yet she finds herself drawing closer to the doomed boy, imperiling her entire future. It's been a while since a concept in a novel has wowed me so much as this one, so much so that the logistics of it didn't even bother me. To get that out of the way, this novel, while the plot and characters are absolutely wonderful, has a world building that is more thought experiment than a realistic setting. Normally, a lack of logic and logistical things erodes a novel for me a bit, but in this book, I found myself thinking about it once in a while, but because it felt like we weren't supposed to take this as like a real setting, but as like a concept, it didn't bother me. My questions mainly revolved around how do they get things like cars or earrings or makeup? Where does the garbage go? How will their town expand if population increases if they're trapped in this valley? As I said, though, these questions popped up now and then, but because the characters and story are so compelling, it didn't even bother me. And if you've watched my channel before, you'll know that this is saying quite a lot, as normally I am the queen of being nitpicky about things like that. What's also interesting is that this book is either set in Quebec or in France, because the names of the people and some other things like the buildings, the gendarmes, are all French. If this was explained, I must have missed it, but I can't imagine how I missed it because I was so absorbed in this book. I just thought it was interesting. Maybe it didn't need to be explained, like who cares? What I enjoyed was, well, everything else. But first, the characters. Despite my normally not seeking out books with teenagers as main characters, Odile is a realistic, likable, lonely teenager who you root for the entire time. She's awkward around the other teens, but we get to see her bloom and grow. Unless you were a very special teenager, we all had moments, sometimes years, of not knowing who we were as teenagers, of feeling like we didn't fit in. We didn't know what we wanted to do with our lives. Odile encapsulates these emotions as the main storyline plays out. Her personality and sense of self is directly related to the events in the book in a way that is masterfully done. The other characters are either likable or understandable, and all of them felt real as well. I really liked all of them. Even the characters that made mistakes and things like that. Even her kind of bitter mother. Even her, you kind of understood where they were coming from. The only thing I will say about the plot that I wasn't super into is that the middle of the book kind of drags a bit, but it doesn't so much drag as in the plot was slow, but in that it's painful to read because we feel bad for a character, yet this part is integral to the story. It's just a bit like depressing, but obviously you can't get away from it because that's very important to the story as a whole. So yeah, obviously can't say that much else about the plot, but if you enjoy time travel paradoxes, this book takes the idea and tackles it in a way that feels realistic and fascinating. The author has a doctorate in philosophy, focusing on the relationship between memory, emotion, and literature, and does he ever nail those themes? This is the book that really brings in the ripple effect idea of time, or divergence. We see this often in sci-fi movies about time travel, but this book uses this concept to bring out deeper themes of regret, choice, and social control. The entire book's purpose, it seems, is situated on the idea of stopping time paradoxes, though we're never really told this or why. I'm presuming it's to ensure, as usual, the people in power stay in power, but these sort of politics are only hinted at and shown, not told, by the difference in status and wealth between Odile and her friends, her mother's bitterness at her job, and various other things here and there. This will lead me into spoilers, but I do have one thing I want to talk about in a second. I'll warn you when it's coming. But I just wanted to say that if you enjoy fascinating sci-fi concepts, excellent characters, and lovely writing, you should check this out. It's not exactly fast-paced, but I flew through it nonetheless. Thank you so much to NetGalley and the publisher for the e-arc. I really, really loved this one. So my slight spoiler. So I cried at the end of this book. I don't cry very often, but I cried a little bit and it was in relief. So much relief for Odile to have her life righted. The parts in the middle where she's stuck, in the army with no choice and no prospects was utterly hard to read because it was so completely depressing. And you can see how people in real life get stuck in these situations. Not obviously the same situation, but situations that are similar and can't break out. But the sorrowfulness of it was what made me push through. I knew there had to be a good thing at the end. And the book was so excellent at making you think Odile was going to escape or try and fix things, and then something she would do or something the book would throw at her would stop it. The misdirects in this case were fantastic, and that climax, absolutely superb. I just loved it. Yeah, so if you've read this book, let me know if you also felt the same way, but I was like really into this novel. So yeah, thanks.